Hamas scandal at Georgetown University. Professor faces deportation over terror ties. A firestorm has erupted at Georgetown University after Badar Khan Suri, a postdoctoral fellow at the Prince Alwaleed bin Talal Center for Muslim Christian Understanding, or ACMCU, was arrested and now faces deportation for his open support of Hamas and direct ties to the terror organization. According to federal authorities and reports from the Middle East Forum, Suri not only spread literal Hamas propaganda online, which was defending October 7th massacre of Israeli civilians, but also has personal ties to the terror group through his marriage to Mapheze Ahmad Yousef Saleh, who is the daughter of senior Hamas official Ahmed Yousef, who Ahmed Yousef, her father, served as a senior political advisor to slain Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. Suri's arrest, carried out under provisions of the Immigration and Naturalization Act, followed years of actively promoting anti Semitism in Hamas messaging, including a video justifying the kidnapping of Israeli children and insisting that Hamas must, quote, sustain its resistance. While Georgetown officials dismissed the arrest as McCarthyism, critics praised the move as long overdue. Quote, the American people deserve better from, the American people deserve universities free from terror sympathizers, said Anna Stanley, who was a research associate who produced this report for the Middle East Forum. Quote, this deportation sends a strong message. Those whose those who support terror will find no sanctuary in our institutions. So let us give a little bit of a backdrop here. Um, what so Badr Suri is a visiting fellow at the Georgetown University Prince Alwaleed bin Talal Center for Muslim Christian Understanding, which was this kind of department set up within Georgetown, which is was originally funded by this Saudi prince and originally set up with the scholar John Esposito and has since been sustained by like hundreds of millions of dollars from Qatar. And so this man was a visiting fellow there. He's an Indian national and he was in the country on a student visa. And so this institution within Georgetown, the ACMCU, is notorious. It's supposed to be for Muslim Christian understanding, you guys. Muslim Christian understanding. They're notorious for basically supporting extremism because within the ACMCU, they have this subsidiary, which is called the Bridge Initiative. And one of the things that the Bridge Initiative does, and you guys can all look this up right now, it's all public, is they create like a Rolodex of fact sheets against so-called Islamophobes. And this can include anyone from Rishi Sunak to Gert Wilders to many people who are self-proclaimed Muslims like Asra Nomani, who and basically it's this fact sheet to kind of defame them as bigots and Islamophobes for their critiques of extremism. And they produce these fact sheets to like put out this whole image to discredit many figures and many other academics who push back on extremist or Islamist interpretations of Islam. Right. And so this is the ACMCU is a very dark and murky element of Georgetown, and they immediately jumped to the defense of Suri, not acknowledging any of the accusations of how close his connections to literal Hamas is, and just saying that one of the people at ACMCU at Georgetown said that this is what happens in Putin's Russia. This is what happens in communist China. This is McCarthyism, blah blah blah. For this professor to be, going through deportation proceedings, dot, dot, dot. It's only because they're being targeted for their views on Palestinian rights. No, they're not being well, if you conflate support for Hamas as speaking on Palestinian rights, then you would be correct. But he is not being facing deportation proceedings for his opinions on Palestinian rights. He's facing deportation proceedings because of his stated support of Hamas and the connections that he has to literal Hamas leadership. There's a distinction there. That is a national security issue. You know what I mean? Like, it's so dishonest, the framing that has not only been taken by Georgetown but also by news associations like Politico. They say, "Oh, no, it's just because 'cause they're being targeted because of their pro-Palestinianism." It's like, no, they're being targeted because of their stated and open support of Hamas. This is not like um oh, you have to read between the lines kind of situation. This is very obvious on their social media. You know what I mean? And so, one thing that's important to consider, well, actually, I'll get into the immigration stuff in a second because I have some opinions there. But as you can see on our little thumbnail here, you can see the photo of him with his wife at their wedding, okay, in front of the Palestinian flag. But what is the picture that they're holding? The picture that they're holding is a photo of Yasser Arafat kissing the forehead of Sheikh
Wow.
Yassin, who's the founder of Hamas. Okay, so that's the one. And again, this is on their own social media. Okay.
What
Then,
the
secondly,
fuck?
what is this other photo you see over here on the right? You can see on the far right, Suri holding hands in a raised kind of celebratory gesture, literally with Ismail Haniyeh.
Holy shit, man. What the fuck?
And,
Who's defending this guy?
and you're like, oh no, it's because of their support for Palestinian rights. I'm like, this dude is doing a celebratory salute with Haniyeh. I think we have some other issues. Like, it's so
What the?
dishonest. Um,
Right.
it's so frustrating. And so I want to highlight the connection here once again. Okay, so there's this scholar, Suri, who was at ACMCU. Okay. Well, we partly found out about this guy's whole identity because not we, the researchers discovered that the daughter of a senior Hamas official was a grad student at Georgetown. And her name is Mapheze Ahmad Yousef Saleh. And then they realized, oh, her husband is also at Georgetown, and he's Suri here on a visa. Now, Mapheze Ahmad Yousef Saleh, the daughter, is an American citizen. Their children are American citizens. But the daughter, Yousef Saleh, is the daughter of Ahmed Yousef. Ahmed Yousef, again, was a senior political advisor in the political wing of Hamas. People try to whitewash it and separate the two. They're like, oh, no, 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 no. He was not a part of Hamas. Not a part of Hamas. He's part of the political arm of Hamas. And we're like, give me a fucking break. It's all terrorism. Like,
Wait, how did this guy get in to begin with?
well,
Like he
okay.
is asking.
I do not believe that Georgetown has an interest in vetting a scholar like this.
But how did it get through immigration? Like, how
That
did it
I
get a
don't know.
visa?
That I don't know.
Huh.
I mean, part of it has to do with the
Were these
school
picture? Did he have a
university.
picture with Ismail Haniyeh before he came to the U.S.?
I actually
Because
don't know
if he
when he entered the US off the top of my
because
head, to be honest.
because the immigration filtering in the U.S. sucks. If
Yeah.
somebody has a picture with Ismail Haniyeh and they manage to get into the United States, like what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's
Like
crazy.
what? Huh.
Um, I actually can pull up the I can pull up his
We used to think it's like impossible to be like you have to go through so many different barriers to be able to go to the US. We felt like it was so difficult. But you get to be a terrorist supporter and they just let you in?
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
insane.
Yeah, I can pull up his deportation proceedings, but it's like all this documentation that I don't know what it means. Um, because it's ongoing. There was like some stuff that came out a few days ago. But basically I don't have a look, I'm no lawyer or whatever, but I believe the what would you call it? Like the code under which he is facing deportation is not necessarily for having committed a crime. The code under which he is facing deportation is more around foreign policy implications, something like that. I don't really understand like the technicalities of it. Um, because that's always something that is thrown in the face by journalists. They're like, they're not being accused of a crime, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, there are other technicalities under immigration and naturalization law in which someone could be deported without having committed a crime, right? Um, yeah. So, anyways, Georgetown is getting exposed for having a lot of moss in in its departments.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
there's going to be a forthcoming report that is going to be digging into kind of Islamist corruption, one could say, at Georgetown that should be coming out in the next month. And this was only one tiny piece of it that they discovered while they were doing this larger investigation that they then brought to the attention of the Trump administration by reporting on it. So I'm definitely going to be following that story. And when that next news story comes out, like the big report, we're definitely going to cover it. Um, but like there was the ACMCU, which issued this whole statement completely in defense of Suri, like not at all acknowledging the virulence of what he has said. Um, but also like the larger Georgetown body hasn't really made comment. Even though I was watching an interview with the researcher that exposed this, and she was saying that she brought this to the attention of individual board members of Georgetown University. She brought this to the attention of Jewish chaplaincy at Georgetown University, and she's just gotten silence. And the only statement that's really been made is from his own little subsidiary department, in which has just been complete defense of 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 him. And this is important to consider because Georgetown is one of our most important academic institutions. It is a highly influential institution that creates many people who will be going into the foreign policy world as they exit their education. And you have to consider what's going on at an institution because this person did not hide like their connections. There was a article in 2018 in the Hindustan Times from the wife, and the wife talks about how she worked for Hamas. Like it's not a like this information was like out there, you know what I mean? And this is then
Wow.
that woman
Wow.
herself ended up becoming a grad student. So, you have to question the influence that a scholar like this guy would have upon his students. His area of expertise is supposed to be like the Middle East and peace studies.
Wow. So this is how you're brainwashing the next generation of young Americans, people who are studying politics. If you're studying Middle East, you're being taught by somebody who supports Hamas.
Well, and is literally like married into Hamas essentially.
Yeah. And basically these are students who are studying to be the future politicians of the United States, and
Yeah.
these are their teachers.
Or not even politicians, like think tank, like policy
Yeah.
advisors, maybe
And
foreign service
politicians.
officers.
And politicians, all of that.
Yeah.
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 Um yeah. Yeah, exactly. John is saying this place is literally a state department feeder school. Exactly. So look how this is how they get you. This is how they invest for the long term. You know, they come, and the people who are going to come and fill out your political institutions, these are their teachers.
Yeah.
By the way, may
Um,
I add regarding the First Amendment and free speech? May I add something here, because some people might say, "What about their free speech? Don't we have the First Amendment in the United States? Aren't you like, even if their opinions are wrong, shouldn't people, based on the First Amendment in the Constitution, be able to come and express their opinions without any consequences?" And unfortunately, some people on our side make the mistake and saying free speech shouldn't apply to them. That's not the way you defend the deportation of people like this, okay? Free speech should apply to them, but this is not like, let me tell you what's happening here, okay? The First Amendment does apply to citizens and non citizens. So the First Amendment does apply to this person, okay? But what does free speech and for the First Amendment mean when it comes to free speech? What is it saying? Basically, what is happening is that if your opinion, expressing your wrong opinion, is not being categorized as a crime, right? So whether you're a citizen or a non-citizen, your opinion, even for a terrorist group in United States, will not be categorized as a crime. That's how the First Amendment applies here. But then when it comes to immigration, whether you have a green card or a student visa or a work visa or whatever you have, that's a privilege. That's not a right, right? And to take that privilege away, a government does not necessarily need you to have committed a crime. There are other things that they could use to take that privilege away from you. Committing a crime, is one of the reason where a government can use to take that privilege away from you as a non-citizen. There are other things. One of them includes support for terrorism. Support for terrorism is not a crime in United States, but it is reason enough to take your immigration status away from you in United States. So this is how your free speech is not being violated, because it's not being categorized as a crime. But this is not about a free speech issue. This is a violation of your immigration status. Basically, the things that you can violate, even if it's not a crime, that you're immigrant. Because the same reasons that the government would not give you a green card or a visa are the same reasons why that a government could take away your visa or your green card. Do you understand that? So if you think that free speech means that there should be no limit, there should be no consequences for somebody that is not a citizen and staying in the United States, that means that there should be no filtering based on ideas or values for visas, green cards, or even citizenship. So, for example, if you think that's a free speech violation, then that you shouldn't ask people to do an oath for their citizenship, or say that they are respecting the values of this country or the laws of these countries, because they should basically be able to believe whatever they want, and you should still give them visas and green cards and citizenship. And that's an insane ask.
well,
If you
that's
have
exactly
already
what like a
accepted,
postmodernist leftist would want. What are you talking about? They wouldn't want any of that. A lot of them want to abolish American. They don't believe in borders. A lot
okay,
of them, like, what are you talking about? They're like, that sounds awesome.
yeah, but they're insane. I'm not talking to insane people. I'm talking to our audience. I'm not talking to lunatics. Okay, I'm talking to our. I just want our audience to realize how to defend this, because they shouldn't go around and say that free speech shouldn't apply to certain people. Free speech should apply to all people. But this is not a matter of free speech. You have The government has not declared that you committed a crime. The government has declared that you have done something that makes you not welcome in this country anymore, even if it's not a crime. So this is not the country. The government is, by not announcing it a crime, the whole free speech issue is not being violated here. I want people to understand that. And anybody that thinks that uh, free speech should means that anybody could say anything and they should be welcome in this country, that means there's no filtering. That means we should remove the oath from the citizenship. That means that we should, even when you're applying for a green card or a visa, if they ask you about your values or your views, all of those questions should be put away. Like, for example, when I became a Canadian citizen, I was told like that I should accept that, I don't know, FGM is not accepted in this country. I should have I should have been able, if I'm a Muslim, for example, should I, if I object to that, I'm like, no, I don't like this. I don't like your laws, Canada. I do not respect your laws. Should that person be given a citizenship? No. Okay, so free speech when it comes to the laws of a country does not mean that there are zero consequences to your views and values. It just means that you will not be punished as a criminal. You will not be free speech when it comes to the level of free speech that we want from a country. It only means that you're not going to be treated as a criminal because of your expression of views. It doesn't mean that there are going to be zero consequences. That's not the standard that we're asking for. So it's important for you guys to understand how to defend the deportation of these monsters. It's important because free speech is so important that you should not go around and spread the idea of like, okay, we could take the free speech of these people away. This is not a free speech issue. This is an immigration status issue. Anyways, sorry that went for long. This is very important to me because I don't like people on our side walking around and saying like, oh, free speech should be limited for these people, because this is an attack on the standards of free speech that we don't want. We do not want that. Oh, thank you, Muhammad Tariq. I appreciate that. Oh, Susie, I'm done. You could come back. Let me actually, now that Susie's away, I think she went to the washroom. Let me see what D has, the comment that D has selected for us. Uh, Georgetown. So this is just the news. Then what was he doing holding hands with Ismail Haniyeh? Okay, so this comment is saying, this is his name, by the way. Badar Khan Suri, a Georgetown student and employee, is getting deported for being pro Hamas, yet some swear he was just pro Palestine. Oh, really? I mean, technically, I mean, I saw Jean in the comment also mentioning they are pro Palestinians, but specifically the Palestinians that are members of Hamas. uh, Yet some swear he was just pro-Palestinian. Oh, really? Then what was he doing holding hands with Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas leader? Deportation will earn. Honestly, guys, I think anybody who comes and says I'm pro-Palestinian, without actually saying that they're pro-Israeli, even if you don't see any connections to Hamas, I think there is fair to deport them, because the pro Palestine these days, unless you clarify that I'm pro Israel and I'm pro Palestine in a way that I want to support Israel by saving Palestinians from Hamas, if you just put out pro Palestine out there, I consider you to be pro terrorism, right? But let me see. Susie, okay, Susie's back. I know Susie wants to. You could read. You want to read the comments that
Sorry, I
you
had to get
highlighted
my
for us?
pain stuff. Um,
Okay.
so this post said, Badar Khan Suri, a Georgetown postdoctoral fellow who spreads pro-terror rhetoric and anti-Semitic propaganda on social media, has been arrested by Department of Homeland Security and set for deportation. Suri is married to a Palestinian woman whose father is a senior Hamas figure and is previous. Oh, it cut off. Wait, go to the reaction.
Oh,
Go down.
yeah. There you
This person, Suri, you've been shalomed. Enjoy.
go. Okay. This is, I think, just an. Oh, yeah.
um, Ba ba ba
You come back.
ba. So this is kind of just a breakdown of the case. So scroll down a little
Uh,
bit to the reaction. Saying education doesn't change the jihadi thought process. Look at his research that also screams the victim card. Like,
I
well, yeah.
mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, it does sometimes change the jihadi thought process and enhances it. Education. Sometimes education just, yeah.
It
Anyways, that was the
clarifies it.
last.
It crystallizes. No.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something else I was gonna
So.
say. I forgot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why I shouldn't be interrupting you. You forget.
I was watching an interviewer with the researcher that exposed all of this, and she basically said that she said that it's possible that he will not end up getting deported, because his wife is American and his kids are American. Um, but it remains to be seen. And here's the thing: people can be pissed about this, but we have something called due process. You know what I mean?
We
We have
should
due
at least.
process. He's going to be going through full proceedings.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know,
but we should. He should have his day in court. But honestly, if the court then stops the deportation, then I don't know what the fuck is happening in the U.S. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah.
don't know what the hell. Okay, yeah, fine, fair, fair. Have your due process, defend yourself, and then the court has to realize, like, okay, this guy is actually a terrorist sympathizer, so get the fuck out.
Well,
But we'll see, we'll see.
we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's just so crazy for me when people play like um how can we do this? This is like Gestapo stuff, because like my boyfriend is an immigrant in this country. His presence in this country is a privilege, and I watch how he maintains his behavior to stay here and how serious it is and the lengths that he goes to. You know what I mean? Like it's a very serious matter, and so
Mhm.
having that be a part of my life, it's just hard for me to kind of sympathize with this to a certain degree, because if you're here on a visa, like very intimately the qualifications and the prerequisites of you remaining here. You have to conduct yourself a certain way.
Yeah, you're a
That is
guest.
part of you're a guest, and that's a part of the legal process. You know what I mean? Especially if you're
Mhm.
going for a green card eventually. I don't this guy, he was just like a doctoral visa or whatever. But like that you are held to a certain standard and you're kind of going through a trial run. Like I don't know, it's kind of so, and especially because this is a part of my life, and like my boyfriend will ask me questions of like, why do people hate the immigration services so much? Like, why are they so sympathetic to people here that are here illegally? Like, I work very hard to be here legally. Like, and then having to explain it to him, it's almost like a kind of from the mouths of babes kind of thing, where when you're trying to explain it to a child, like you realize how stupid some of the reasoning is. I'm like, "Oh, actually, I don't have a good explanation for a lot of this stuff." Um, yeah, I don't know. It's
Okay,
just changed my mind about a lot of things.
that's a very good point. I'm glad that you brought that as an example. And it's so that's why, people like your boyfriend should be like very much welcome because they understand what's happening here, right? They
Yeah.
understand that this is they appreciate the country giving them all these opportunities. And these people come in and these other people come in and not only they don't appreciate, they basically stand up against the values and they support the enemies of the country that has been generous enough to them to give them this opportunity. I
That's
mean, the
what's so
fact that
funny that he doesn't get. He's like, if there were a bunch of people from my country that were coming here and being a super big problem, like they came in a big group and they're becoming a huge problem to the other communities and they are not adapting to like American culture. He's like, I would be the first person to be like, fuck these people, send them home. Like
right.
he's like, I don't get
I mean,
it.
every country should be like that. Every country should be
Yeah.
like, yeah, if you come here and we don't like you, we don't want you here. You're a guest and you overstayed your welcome. By the way, Muhammad, I love Muhammad in the chat, but I disagree. So I hope you don't mind me disagreeing with you, Muhammad, over this one. Muhammad is saying due process for people like this is not right, in my opinion. You cannot give due process for those who want to destroy you or support those that do. Islamists use your own due process against you. I don't agree. I think the due process should be fixed in a way so that it cannot be misused, but it's not right to take due process away because you can never be sure whether or not these are the people who deserve this treatment or not. Like we cannot just rely on reports on the news or this stream, for example. Like you cannot rely on me and Susie. You cannot rely on tweets. You cannot rely on news reports to understand whether or not this is a deserving or not. You need a structured investigation by an unbiased entity to look into this. Like we cannot just like this needs to be investigated. So you think these people don't deserve this or that? Well, how do you know they don't deserve this or that? You cannot just rely on what I'm saying or Susie is saying or what some tweets are saying. You need an independent investigation to make sure you're getting it right, right? So that's why you need due process. And even people who are garbage require due process, because first of all, it has to be established that they're actually garbage. Okay,
Yeah.
but also human rights, guys, is not for good people. Human rights is for all people. Like we are a civilized society, based on how we treat the worst of all people, and we are
Mhm.
and how we treat the worst of all speech, right? So just in the way that free speech is not just for good speech, free speech is also includes horrible speech. Human rights also includes the most horrible people, right? That's how you differentiate yourself from an uncivilized society.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's my
Mhm.
opinion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dude, this weird ass comment, Brandon is saying, "Don't worry, once he becomes his citizen, I'm sure your boyfriend will be his true self." You're assuming he wants to become an American and have his ass owned by the IRS. Oh my god. You want to respond to
Oh, by
Shami?
the way, Muhammad just said, "I get where you're coming from, Armin. I respect your opinion. I have to rethink about my opinion." Well, that's very mature of you. I mean, I'm not saying I'm right, by the way. So but that's my opinion at the moment, and I appreciate your
Yeah.
response to that. That's amazing.
I just think it's so stupid. Like Armin, you literally emigrated to a country and then eventually naturalized. Like you didn't start doing Atheist Republic until you were a naturalized citizen because you knew, right? I
No,
think
no,
that's what
no,
you told me.
no. I didn't. I was doing Atheist Republic even when I was still in Iran, and when
No,
I,
publicly, sorry.
uh, yeah, I didn't become. I didn't become public about who's behind Atheist Republic. Not because I was worried that this contradicts Canada's values, because I know Canada had no issues with it. I was just wanted to never be public about it until I know that I could stay in Canada without ever being sent back.
Yeah.
So until I became a like when I became permanent resident, I knew that I'm never going to have to worry about being sent back to Iran ever again. So that now, because I was worried about the Iranian government, not about the Canadian government. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that I don't become public about Atheist Republic and then go back to Iran, and then I have to deal with that. So I became
Mhm.
public about who's behind Atheist Republic once I got my permanent residency,
Yeah, no, but
and then I
I
became a
guess that wasn't a
citizen.
good example, but I'm just like saying like from your literal own experience, you know about what it's like to come to a country on a visa,
Right.
naturalized, and that you understand that you have to conduct yourself a certain way when you're a guest.
Oh yeah.
This is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
rocket science, guys. Like,
I mean, I didn't think about that much because I considered my values to be Canadian values already.
mhm.
So I didn't think like I have to worry about my behavior because I consider my behavior to be good behavior anyway. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah,
Um,
but uh, we got
should we
two
go to the
super
super
chat,
chats?
and
Yeah.
yeah, and Darko got a memberships.
Darko
Thank
just
you.
gifted 10 Atheist Republic memberships. Thank you, Darko. That's so
Amazing.
generous. We're trucking
Thank
along,
you.
you guys. Like, we literally could not do this without your support. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sketch Therapy gave a super chat saying violating a contract is not a crime, but it has consequences, especially if that contract is with the government. Parentheses, love your work.
Exactly. Exactly. So if you are doing stuff that violates the
Terms of
conditions that you
agreement. It's a terms of agreement.
terms of the agreement, the term of the agreement of your visa or your green card or whatever, that is not under criminal law. It's mostly like contract violations are considered civil law, not criminal law. But it is a violation, and you have to get the fuck out, even though it's not a crime. You still have to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
good point.
Gasian also gave a super chat saying, I'm a born American citizen. If they took away our due process, I have no way of proving it without due process. Same for
Yeah,
me.
I know. Yeah. And it's also not just any due process, okay? Because we could have due process and could be shitty due process, okay? So
Yeah.
it has to be, yes.
Never forget that the Islamic Republic has due process.
Exactly. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.